What's up, everybody? It is Jordan here from Wednesday Night Warhammer with another Tyranid Tactics video. This week, it's all about the Norn Emissary. Everybody loves this guy. He's, in my opinion, one of the coolest models in Warhammer 40k, but I often feel like we get into a trap of using him incorrectly when we play. He's supposed to be this invincible unit that we can just stick somewhere and leave for forever, but oftentimes if you commit him too early, he dies way too quickly. So, if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on how I think you should be playing the Norn Emissary in your games with Tyranids, hang out with me while I go through it. The main reason why you're bringing the Norn in a game is because it's very durable. It's going to have a high amount of OC, and it has the potential to just dominate one section of the board for the entirety of the game. That's why you're taking it. In addition, it's going to create a large trading opportunity for you versus your opponent. Hopefully, if you're playing it correctly, you're going to commit your Norn to an objective at a point in time where your opponent has to make a choice of either putting its entire army basically into the Norn or ignoring it. Then, of course, if your opponent does put its entire army into the Norn, then the idea is the rest of your army should be able to capitalize on that for a very strong counterpunch. And that's one of my main points about this video is I feel like the Norn Emissary, yes, it's durable, yes, it's strong, but the counterattack for what your opponent puts into the Norn should be the main focus. And if you are able to support the Norn by having a bunch of guns or some really strong melee units behind it in order to capitalize on your opponent putting 2-3 units into the Norn all at once, then you are going to create a disparity in the trade wars where even if your Norn dies, there's an opportunity for you still to be on the plus. Before we get into the tactics and some of my thoughts about playing this beautiful bug, let's just break it down and look at the actual profile of this guy. He's got T11, which is very strong, 2-up save, 4-up invulnerable, and then a 4-up feel no pain all the time against any mortals or devastating wounds. That's very strong. In addition, he's going to have a 5-up feel no pain on an objective of your choice. I know there's technically 2 parts to that rule where you reroll hits and wounds against a specific unit, but honestly, you just always choose the 5-up feel no pain on an objective. You just do, because that's going to help the Norn really make use of its high durability. In addition, its offensive power is okay. It's not incredible, but it is okay. It has 10 attacks that are going to delete Space Marines in combat. You have 6 Strength 10, AP 3, I believe. No, it's AP 2. 3 damage attacks, and then you have 4 AP 2 damage 2 attacks, and that is Strength 8. So both of those offensive profiles are going to do a really good job at killing any Space Marine equivalent unit, and they're going to do an okay job at killing basically anything else. If it had more attacks, that would be great, of course. But of course, if I owned a flying car, that would also be great. In addition, its shooting is okay. I almost always only shoot the narrow lance. 18-inch range, Melta, so within 9. That's pretty cool. 2 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 12, AP 3, D6. Then you get that Melta 2 if you're within 9. That's pretty good. It's not bad. It's not bad. The other 2 shooting attacks you have, option 2, are really not the best. The precision gun is weird with the D3 damage. If that was a 3 damage gun or something like that, then you might see it more often. And then the blast, I think, is actually pretty good for clearing away chaff because you are hitting on 2s with a pretty big blast weapon. So if you have a bunch of like cultists in front of you or something that you need to clean up, that could be a good option. But oftentimes, I'm just using the Melta. The Norns are not indestructible. So if you are only giving your opponent the Norn to destroy during your turn or during your opponent's turn, rather, they will destroy that. I think Warhammer 40k in 10th edition, it was advertised to be a less lethal edition, and in my opinion, they have missed the mark. Right now in the current meta, especially with Space Marines getting such a huge buff with a +1 to wound, things are just going to be deleted. Things are just going to be picked off the table, and something with T11, 16 wounds, 4-up invuln, and then 5-up feel no pain is honestly not impervious to that thought. So there is a pretty good chance where if you only stick out your Norn, even on its favorite objective, your opponent can pick it up. So you have to baby your Norn, and instead of just throwing it out there, you have to charge it onto an objective, not just land on it. And what I'm talking about is you want to stage your Norn for maybe the first or maybe even the second turn without really pushing onto the objective. You want to try and force your opponent to put a unit on the objective, have your Norn charge out and kill that unit, and then land on the objective. So you're already at a net positive with trading for the Norn, and hopefully that will dwindle their forces a little bit, so it's later on in the game, so they maybe don't have the firepower or the punch to really commit into a Norn Emissary. You have to make your opponent make a bad decision when you're playing with the Norn. You have to try and give it a possibility where there's no way that your opponent is going to kill the Norn and blank. I oftentimes like running a Maleceptor alongside the Norn Emissary. So a lot of times my opponent will have the really, really difficult choice of either taking care of the Norn Emissary or taking care of the Maleceptor. There's some very deadly armies in the game right now, but I am having a hard time finding a lot of armies that can very confidently kill a Maleceptor as well as a Norn Emissary in just one go. Baby your Norn and really force your opponent into a hard decision between killing it or going somewhere else on the table. So the whole idea of this video is I'm trying to encourage you to protect your Norn for 1 or 2 turns and then really pop him out, countercharge something that's on an objective, and then commit him to a board state where hopefully maybe your opponent has a couple of less units. Hopefully maybe your Norn has an opportunity to activate into something, maybe kill 1 or 2 units through shooting and charging, and then has a higher chance of dominating the table state for the rest of the game. So number one, the Norn Emissary, or 1 or 2 of them, should absolutely be the priority for you to hide during your deployment. It's got to be the unit that you are triple checking lines of sight and triple checking charge ranges. If your opponent is able to shoot at or activate into your Norn before it is on the objective, then it is cutting its durability by 1/3 easily. So your number one goal when you're playing with your Norn Emissary is to make sure that it is 100% safe until it is on its favorite objective. And then, whatever your opponent puts into it is what happens. So something that can help you in order to do this is measure a staging turn and then a commitment turn. So if you see in this diagram that I've set up, there's 3 different Norn Emissaries. The one on the far left is pretty much where I'm going to deploy it. From that angle on this terrain setup, your opponent is not going to be able to shoot at it, hopefully, after double checking everything. And then you are able to, the second Norn right there is just when I move it up during my first movement phase. So I'm only really scooting him up just that much to make sure that he is still within cover. He's probably not able to be shot at. And then the next turn, when I've committed the Norn onto the objective, he's countercharged something. He's living on the objective now, loving his life, and then has already been able to delete, hopefully, at least 1 unit from your opponent's army. In addition, with this game plan of really teasing your Norn out 1 or 2 turns, threaten a really strong counter punch if your opponent commits back into the Norn. And you can see that I have the Tyrant effect set up over there on either side, so that they're pretty much going to get an angle on anything that wants to come back and hit the Norn. So that's a really scary counterpunch that I think a lot of opponents are going to be looking at when they are trying to commit into the Norn Emissary. And then lastly, but not least, in fact, we're going to talk about it more, is charge onto the objective accompanied by other units as well. Really give a big push with some durable units that can help the Norn Emissary decide. That's another main point of this video, is have your opponent make bad decisions about what they're going to commit into. For instance, if you have a Maleceptor next to a Norn Emissary, the amount of durability that those 2 units have together is just astounding. All right, this Norn never leaves home without its Maleceptor dog. I really hope you enjoy my version of MS Paint with with a Norn walking a Maleceptor. It's the best I could do, honestly, and I think it's pretty good. But anyways, the idea is that we're stacking so many defensive buffs on our units that our opponent is really going to have a hard time with. So the Maleceptor is going to give -1 to hit within 6 inches. This is very devastating for any melee armies. If you put a Norn and Maleceptor together, it is really, really, really tough for a lot of melee armies to deal with that. Um, Especially if the unit that is attacking is below half strength and it's -1 to wound within that 6-inch bubble, and they're just not going to have a good time. 2 high toughnesses, T11 on both of them. 4 up Inbones is incredibly hard to shift. I think I spoke on it before, but there's a lot of Killy armies out there. I think there's still going to be quite a bit of armies that are going to have a hard time activating into both of these and profiting and being able to kill both of these in one go. Probably having to choose either the Norn or the Maleceptor. If they choose the Maleceptor, it is probably more likely that they kill the Maleceptor. But if they choose the Norn, then there's a better chance, of course, that they bounce. But even killing one of these and then leaving the other still kind of puts your opponent in a tough choice. So again, you're trying to force your opponent to make a bad decision or to commit way too much into the board way too early. So it really does make the opponent choose or commit in a way that is probably going to be positive for your game plan and hopefully negative for theirs. So have the Norn walk his dog, he loves them. As always, the advertisement slide. I'll keep it quick. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for subscribing for more bug content every single week. You won't regret it. We're really doing some great content and we are only looking to improve every single week. We have army list review shows. In fact, I'm doing one tomorrow. It's going to be at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I go over around 8 army lists that are submitted from the community. You could submit an army list for me to take a look at and offer my advice. That chat is very fun, and honestly, they've inspired me to make this video on the Norns because people love submitting Norns in their lists, and chat really, really doesn't like when I delete the Norns from the list. So come hang out with us tomorrow, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Love to have you, and love to have you be a part of the chat. We have really fun shenanigans every Wednesday night. That's the namesake of the channel, Wednesday Night Warhammer. We play a battle report every single Wednesday. I'll be playing some form of Tyranids this Wednesday, so hang out with us. It's going to be a good time. That's around 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And sometimes we eat really spicy peppers on there, so it could be cool. Check out our merch below, fourth wall link. It should be right there. We've got a really cool coffee mug that I think is my favorite. I'm going to get another one just so I can use it as a paint cup. It'll be pretty sweet. And then in addition, we're at 5,700 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. If you want to help us get to 6,000, just go ahead and click that subscribe button and it would be incredible. That's it. Let's take a look at some lists. First up is an example Synaptic Nexus list that I think is pretty fun. I played a version of this recently on a stream and I had a great time. I think the only difference is on that stream I had a Parasite of Mortrex instead of the third set of gargoyles. But anyways, for characters we have Hive Tyrant with Synaptic Control, -1 damage of course, Nerve Tyrant with Power of Hive Mind, and then Death Leaper. I really like Death Leaper for this kind of list because it does kind of run a little bit of like a Battle Shock side game. So if you're able to trigger Battle Shocks from the Death Leaper, then it's pretty nice because the detachment has the Synapse grenades, which is very, very useful, and it's really good to be able to just get some chip damage. Then we have 3 gargoyles. I think they're just, if you know the channel, you know me. They're really good. Play gargoyles, please. Go check out the gargoyle video if you want to see me discuss my maybe favorite unit gargoyles. But yeah, 3 gargoyles is going to be great for primary control, screening out melee armies from trying to get to your Norns early, as well as just possibly deep striking in and taking a home objective or doing some really nice secondary. Other data sheets is the Biovore. Of course, you're playing Tyranids, so you take a Biovore. The double Maleceptors to hang out with the double Norns that are down there. Double Neurolictors just to aid with the Synapse as well as Battle Shock shenanigans. And then Zoanthropes and Synaptic Nexus go so hard with reroll 1s to hit and reroll 1s to wound strat. It's just really good. And that is one of the reasons why this list doesn't include any exocrines, because the argument is that, you're going to hopefully be activating with Irresistible Will every single turn. So you're going to re-roll ones into whatever you want regardless. So yeah, try out this list. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's very strong. This is a incredible, fun Crusher Stampede list. It features 2 Norns as well. You could even go further and do triple Norn, but I still really wanted to have a Hive Tyrant and another Maleceptor. But anyways, we just have a basic Hive Tyrant. I've been using the melee Hive Tyrant recently with the Bone Sword and then the Scything Talons. That's been fitting my playstyle a little bit more than the Venom Cannon right now. And then we have 1 squad of Gargoyles for the battle line, just as a deep strike, secondary threat. I think they're very useful. We have the Biovore, double Exocrine, double Lictor, double Maleceptor, double Norn Emissary, and then double Tyrannofex. So this list, it really does kind of want to just push forward pretty quickly. And in this case, this might be like an exception to the rule of kind of hiding your Norn and then moving it out. If you are able to push onto 2 middle objectives with a Maleceptor and a Norn Emissary both at the same time, then that's a pretty strong case of just sending it, honestly. Because, if you are able to turn 2, get an early 15 on primary, and then kind of snowball from there, I think that is something that Crusher Stampede really, really wants to do. And with the Maleceptor plus Norn Emissary kind of combo, it's a pretty good chance that you will be able to do that. And then the Exocrines and Tyrannofexes are going to be on different flanks, and then be able to activate into anything that goes into, the Norns. I still like the Hive Tyrant in this. You could argue that it could be something else. I know some people just use like Old One Eye or something like that. But I like the Hive Tyrant for advancing the Tyrannofexes, because with a pivot, the Tyrannofexes actually can see quite a bit from their Rupture Cannon gun. And so being able to give them a little bit of extra movement, in addition to the jump through wall stratagem, is really going to help you counterpunch and protect your Norns with these Tyrannofexes or Exocrines. Try Crusher Stampede out, guys. It's a lot of fun. And if you haven't played Crusher Stampede with a bunch of Norns or something like that, you really should. It's a really, really, really good version of Warhammer 40k. All right, everybody, that's my thoughts on the Norn Emissary. If you like this style of content, if you think this is a good video, comment, like, subscribe. Liking it really, really helps us, and of course, commenting it is phenomenal. In fact, if you even don't have a comment to comment, why don't you comment? Warp spiders are dumb. Really, really fuel that Eldar hate that I think is out there right now. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you Wednesday. Bye.